All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Welcome to Tech Hill Commons. Today, for our Tech Talk, our sponsor is DePalma Studios, and their lovely team of 6, I think, are here today. And we have CEO Floyd DePalma here, and we also have Susmitha, and Roberto, and the 3 of them are going to talk to us on low-code. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you.
Okay. So, let's see here. Let's try to do this. Well, thanks everybody for coming out. I appreciate it, and I want to thank the NTC for providing a nice forum for us to present on the topic of low code. But I want to start by talking a little bit about, about our company. Let me introduce us. I got it. Don't go from workspaces. But anyway, we'll do it again. So just a little bit of background. We started in 2012. So we've been in Nashville for been doing business for about 11 years now. We specialize in product design from the beginning of our company. It was launched primarily because I just felt the need for engineering to, had a challenge in really designing products back then. And, growing up, being part of corporate America and delivering products for a couple decades, one of the things that always frustrated me was the product design. So that's one of the things that we focused on as a company. And software, so design, we started out with just front-end development. Over the years, we've grown into a more full-stack offering. We're based in Nashville, but we've expanded. We're doing engineering. We're building out a team of engineers in Austin. My director of product development, Roberto's in Austin, so it makes it very easy for us to recruit engineers in the Austin area. So that's what we've been doing. So primarily, we were in downtown Nashville for a decade, but COVID got us to close the office, just like it did so many others. And at that point, the team had started to become more distributed throughout the U.S. And so that's kind of where we are right now. We scale with some offshore and nearshore resources like a lot of different companies do. But that's a little bit about our background, and just because it's all, I felt like really the focus of our company has always been about people, and it's really evident in our mission, about designing a world where technology intuitively serves people. And then our mission is to build software solutions that seamlessly integrate technology into people's lives. So it's been my vision and mission from the beginning. Our tagline's been, we build applications people love to use from the beginning, and it's always been our focus. More on the core values, people, innovation. It's all about people and at the center of everything that we do. So we brought our team up in October to get everyone physically together again because we're all virtual now. We used to have that office to go to every day, and I used to love that. So we try to simulate that somewhat with our daily stand-ups every morning. The entire team comes together, and we have a daily chat every single day, and so I try to bring something together, and now to actually be able to meet our team once a year is kind of becoming a priority. And it was a great thing. We really enjoyed it. We'll definitely be doing it for years to come. If you want to learn more about us at clutch.co, this is a third-party site where we do a lot of our reviews. They'll interview our clients and post reviews for us. So we have several reviews on projects that we've done, and we invite you to go over there and check us out on Clutch if you want to see any of our background. in a nutshell, like I said, UX UI is kind of our thing, our specialty. It's been our focus since we started DePalma Studios. And custom software development is, building products is the other half of the company. And Design Impact Workshop, this is our proprietary secret sauce on how we kind of build the blueprint for products in our what we call a very lean discovery model. Over the years, I've noticed that selling really heavyweight UX is what everybody wanted a while back, and over the years it was a little bit harder of a sell. So we've come up with a kind of a more bottom-up approach where we have a stakeholder interview. A method to take that stakeholder interview and understand who the users are. We flesh the journeys out, and then we have an estimation process that breaks down the problem atomically, more like the atomic design model, where we'll break everything down into its components so that we can manage our design projects just like we would manage a development project in an agile format, because the problem's broken down in a componentized way, and it makes it a great way to manage your offshore resources. So that's a little bit about us. So why are we here today? Is because we're going to talk about low code, and so the low code really came about, and only I'd say like in the last 6 months really, where we've been looking at it and decided that this was something that we were going to start doing. But in the last year, I've been hearing clients mentioning it to me. Low code, you guys do low code? And I really, at first, I didn't quite know exactly what they were talking about, because we build custom software products, right? Who would, that's how you do things. You pick your front-end technology, you pick your back-end technology, or your architecture. Do you want a SaaS platform, So how do you want your product to be designed and built? And that's the way we custom rolled everything. But bringing on Roberto several months ago, I told him I had clients that would mention low code, and I had him look into this. I go, is this something that we can do? So he looked into it, and he goes, yeah, we can do this low code stuff. So it was new to me not too long ago, right? So and I was wondering if it was new to the rest of you all. So I wanted to bring this information out. So basically, the case study we're going to show you today is I've had a client that came, and we did the Design Impact Workshop for her. So she went through our stakeholder interview. We found out her users. We fleshed those things all out, and we did the estimation. We did a proper product design after we had the blueprint from the Design Impact Workshop. So we had a Figma all built out. Everything was ready to go for engineering. You have your requirement specifications, and we ran it. And then at that point, this was a self-funded startup, and I gave her the quote to do the first release, and it was over $200,000 to build, your React front end and your .NET back end, or whatever the architecture was that we recommended for her. But the price range was out of reach for her. And then with this new capability, we were able to offer her to be able to build that product for about 20-25% of the cost. So we were able to do it probably like 10 times faster for a fraction of the price. So that's what we're going to show you guys today, that there's this new, it's not this new thing. There's this old thing called low code that's becoming new, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Roberto is my director of product dev, and he has a lot more in-depth knowledge of it than I do, and he's going to go over the ins and outs of low code and try to give you guys a little head start on what it is. And we're going to show you a couple products that we've just about finished and are ready to launch. So that's the intro for DePalma. I'd like to introduce, let me introduce the team and everybody here. The speakers that are going to be is Roberto, come on up, and Shusmitha will be going over the product. She's my COO. Hannah's our senior engagement manager and here in Nashville, and we've got Cheney in the back, our sales manager. And we've got a lot of great swag back there that we're going to send a list out. If you guys put your name on there, we'll draw some numbers and got a bunch of good stuff to give away too. So Roberto,
I think I need that thing.
let me give you this. Don't push the button.
This is too high tech. How's the sound on this? Good? Can you guys hear me? All right, so yes, I'm Roberto, Director of Product Development, and I just want to talk a little bit about low-code. So an introduction to low-code, the evolution of rapid application development. So I've been in software for a while, I think, quarter of a century, 25 years. So rapid application development is a term that's been around for a long time. So I'm going to talk about low-code and how that fits in with the notion of rapid application development here. All right, so what does it say here? So the origins of low-code development can be traced back to the 80s, right, when the concept of RAD emerged. So software is a difficult process to take on, right? So it's complex, a lot of unknowns. In the early days, people started to think about it as building, like getting a building off the ground. So you have an architecture, you have a blueprint, then you build it. But then we found out that it's not exactly a one-to-one. So a lot of problems came up in the way it was being built. Deadlines were missed and all that. So RAD came as a response to that. How can we build software faster, more reliable, be more predictable in ways that we estimate and so on? So RAD, it says it emphasizes prototyping, iterative development, and visual tools. So people began to come up with ideas on how to make the process of app development faster. And RAD was there, and then one of the early ones was Microsoft Access. So fun fact, I was a Microsoft Access developer. That was my first real production developer job. So some of you may know that. And that's considered RAD. So it had, one of the things about it was it let you build forms very quickly, drag and drop. So you have a template, you have buttons, you drag them on and so on. So it allowed people to build forms and apps very quick. And then later on in the 2000s, we have WordPress and Wix. I think somebody was talking about WordPress here. So that's another type of low code. The difference with that is that WordPress and Wix is more for website creation, but it has a lot of the same concepts. Drag and drop. WYSIWYG is another term that you hear in that space. So low code is a little bit different than that. So that's the beginning of that. Then we have, so here's an example of a Microsoft Access form. Who can remember that? Anyone remember that? Worked on that? Yeah. So the idea is, again, you drag and drop. You build your forms, and you have your template or your palette of components, and the idea is you build it. And one of the goals that Access had was to allow more business-oriented people to contribute in the development process. And we can argue if they were successful or not there. And then here's an example of a low-code product called Bubble. So you'll see very similar type of idea here, right? So you've got your screen here, you've got your components and all that. I just want to kind of demonstrate how it's, as Floyd said, it's new, but it's not new, right? So it's an evolution of a concept that's been around for a good while. So then what is it? Okay, so modern approach to software development that emphasizes visual drag and drop interfaces and the use of pre-built components, right? It also follows agile development principles. So when we say principles, it doesn't necessarily follow a method. It's more of the ideas behind agile iterations, right? So you want to release early, release often. You want to be able to have non-development people be involved. So it emphasizes those. Collaborative, flexibility, and rapid iteration, right? And then also encourages business users to participate in the process. That's a goal that Access had, and it continues in low code. So low code is basically the evolution of RAD, and now these platforms are out in the market. And I think the reason that they're gaining momentum, because Access has been around for a while, is because the cloud. So Microsoft Access, once you build an app, typically put it on a file share, and people would all access that. So it's going to be in your local network. With low code, it's out in the public. So you build the application and then it becomes instantly available to everybody. And that's where it's similar to WordPress and Wix. But again, it's for application development as opposed to websites. So simple websites, it's not what low code is for. Low code is for real apps, databases, API calls, and so on and so forth. So that's, what did I do here? Is that me? Okay, so that's low code. So it's basically, again, platforms that allow you to build software fast. So in a nutshell, that's what that is. And then we'll talk about, okay, so some of the platforms that are out there now are Bubble, right? Flutterflow, Mendix, and Microsoft Power Apps. So DePalma Studios, we're doing right now Bubble and Flutterflow. So those are the platforms we work on, but there's several, and they have their pros and their cons. And then also there's upcoming support for machine learning. Everyone's talking about AI, ChatGPT and all that. So there's integration for that on these platforms. And it says here also the other languages like Python, JavaScript, right? So just because you do drag and drop, they're under the hood, there's still code. So you can open up, if you want to get advanced or do more complex things, you can write source code in JavaScript or Python, for example. Yeah. Okay. So myths and misconceptions. All right. So sometimes when people talk about low code, questions are going to come up. Okay. So yeah, sure, it's fast, right? But is it secure? Can it scale? Can it handle 1 million users, for example, right? Can I only do simple things? Can I do complex things? So some of the things that are out there are these questions, right? So it's only suitable for non-technical users who lack programming skills. That's a myth. So an experienced developer can use low code. I myself tried it, and I was able to get like Google SSO authentication and a simple form in about an hour or two. And even with a platform that I'm comfortable with, it would have taken me like 3 times, 4 times that long. So it's definitely not just for non-technical people. It allows anyone, the flip side is, it allows anyone to create production quality apps. That's also a myth. No, not anyone can do that. And I think some of these misconceptions come from the platform vendors themselves. You go to their website, the literature makes it seem like anyone could just get in here and just write an app. And that's not how it works. So maybe you can get something very basic, but once you get into the real world where you have to talk to other systems, systems are normally not in a bubble. You have to talk to other systems, databases, web services, and so on. Once you get into that realm, then you have to really know what you're doing at that point. Security is a concern. Somebody asked me earlier, is it secure? The answer is yes and no. It's secure if you know what you're doing, and there's things you can do to make it secure. So Bubble, for example, is built on top of AWS. So everyone's familiar with that, right? So these platforms are built on top of industry standard, high-grade platforms. So you get the security that AWS has. You get that inherently because it's on AWS, for example. So security is there. And it doesn't require an upfront product design. That's a myth, and it does. You can do low code without an upfront product design by dragging and dropping or using a template, for example, but that's going to give you a very limited experience, and you'll eventually run into a situation where the template now locks you into a certain aesthetic or a certain flow, and now you can't get out of it. So if you have the resources to get an upfront design, that's definitely the way that you want to go. Okay, so hybrid architecture. So this is a topic about low code with traditional. So to address some of the issues about security, you can do part low code and part full stack. Okay? So the hybrid architectures combine the speed and ease of low code with the power and flexibility of full stack. And this does work. So typically what you would do is you would use the low code frameworks for the front end. So you have again, going back to the drag and drop thing. So you drag and drop your forms, you create your forms in the low code stack. So you get that speed. But then the back end, you would use something more traditional like Node, Python and running in Amazon or in Azure. And then some platforms like WeWeb are actually built exclusively for a hybrid scenario where they only offer the front end, and it's a low-code platform. So, and I'm going to show an example of what that looks like for the geeks in the house. All right, so this is a hybrid architecture. So on the left, you see Bubble. So that gray box, that's the whole Bubble platform. So you can see Bubble actually gives you all 3 layers of the stack. They provide the front end components, they provide the workflow or business components, and they can provide the database components, and all of them are low code. So at each level is drag and drop, okay? But then with a hybrid, you can reach out to, and this is in Amazon because, again, Bubble's built on it, so it's very easy. So they provide connectors, and then now you can create somewhat of a, you can call it a microservices architecture. So in terms of security, so now you have, Amazon Document DB or like these Amazon databases where you can then secure them with your own policies and make sure that they're according to the specifications of your organization, and then you just use the connector. So here is where your secure transport layer or whatever, for example. But you get fine-grained control. Where here, you're very limited to what you can do with a Bubble database. I'm sorry? Yeah, you're limited with the Bubble database. It's kind of think of Microsoft Access. It's definitely not Amazon RDS. Okay, and then of course you can leverage different components there. So that's hybrid.
Is this, just out of curiosity, I mean, across most of the low-code platforms, I'm assuming this is kind of a common scenario, right? They take you to a certain point and they allow you to extend.
Correct. Yeah, and yes, and you can live your whole life here. There's nothing, you don't have to do that. This is for scenarios where you want very specific control over different, or you have systems that are not, that Bubble just doesn't know how to talk to. You have to, and you can write plugins and things like that, right? Yeah. Okay. And that's just an example, of course, right? You can do all sorts of stuff here. All right, so just some research data. So Gartner and Forrester talking about, they've done, since it's been around for a while, so some numbers, right? Up to 6 times increase in productivity, up to 90% increase, just some numbers. This is all publicly available. This is stuff that you can find on the web, but yeah, some research data. On what's happening now, what we've seen, and there's all sorts of anecdotal data as well. And then sticking with the Gartner and Forrester theme, what are they saying? Do they think this is a fad? Is this something that's is some newfangled thing that's gonna die in a year or two? Not according to what they're saying here. And according to our experience, I think there's a lot of potential. And as these platforms mature and get feedback from users, I think they're gonna get better and better. So there's definitely a place for low code in the future. And this is what some information that they're talking about here. So conclusion. So yeah, low-code development is not a panacea, right? It's not a silver bullet. It doesn't solve every problem. It's not right for every situation. It might not even be right for every organization. It just depends on your needs. But again, if you're interested in rapid development, if you're interested in something, an MVP or even prototyping an internal tool, it's perfect for that kind of thing. And I think if organizations that at least get up to speed on this technology will be in a good place in terms of competitive advantages and things like that. So yeah, definitely governance framework, right? So get your organization up to speed on it and start asking the questions. Work with a partner to help you navigate that. Selecting the right platform is important, and then training and support. That's it. Thank you. Do you want to do some Q&A right now? Let me get some water real quick. Go ahead.
So you specifically mentioned Bubble, which is, I guess, tied to AWS. What if you are sort of reticent about funding, about becoming part of becoming part of the make Jeff Bezos even richer?
Okay, yeah. So then Bubble wouldn't be for you, right? So yeah, right now, I'm not aware of many platforms that allow you to host on-prem. Like, let me have your framework, and I just use your framework, and let me put it into my data center. I'm not aware of any that allow you. There could be some that do that. But yeah, if you don't want to get involved with AWS, then Bubble wouldn't be the platform. Others are on Azure, and some of these platforms now we're talking about being able to move, like, because they have customers saying, we like Bubble, but we don't want to be in AWS, we're an Azure shop. So Bubble is being forced to migrate their code base and to run on other clouds. So that is definitely happening.
Do you think that's going to be available sometime soonish, or is that?
I don't know what the roadmap is. Yeah, go ahead.
As far as other platforms, you know, common one in the enterprise space is obviously going to be Microsoft.
Yes,
Given the alignment with Office 365 and Power Apps.
correct.
Have you had experience with that, and where do you feel that lives in the maturity model?
In the mature mode. So that's an interesting one. So I don't know if you remember, they had an offering called Lighthouse or Light. It was a predecessor to Power Apps. So they've been in this space for a while, going back to Access, right? So they're not new to low code, and they're not new to rapid application development. But personally, I haven't seen a lot of customers talking about that specific framework. So I don't know what their adoption rate is. But I mean, it's Microsoft, so they have the resources. And again, they've been in the game for a long time. So I would expect their platform to be fairly mature, at least where everyone else is at, if not more.
Yeah, I guess, we're just the front end of it, you know, having full stack developers, there's a whole question there of like, what's the future of that type of role in an enterprise space?
Yeah.
It seems, given what you're saying here, if I'm hearing you right, there's probably part of this that is building services and adapters and connectors and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
Be there to then enable front end development more using these platforms. Is that, and that might be different in the enterprise space than versus a pure product development play independently. I don't know if you've worked in that.
Well, I think that these platforms give experienced full stack developers an edge. So you basically can level up because you're coming to these platforms with an understanding of databases, for example. I mean, if you don't know what a database is, it doesn't matter how drag and drop it's going to be. You can't do much because you need to understand concepts like API calls, security, and things like that. So
There's a lot of, I'm sure that people can relate culturally. I think there's a stigma
there is.
in the space of, well, you got real developers, then you got these people that do this type of work.
Exactly.
It seems like we're getting closer together here, but that's something that I'm trying to find out where that
Right.
balance is. When do we overcome that?
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think the platforms themselves are perpetuating these misconceptions and giving the impression that like, I don't know if you guys remember, what's that movie, with the mouse that cooks? What's that one? Ratatouille. Like anyone can cook, right? Like that thing, it's not like that. Like, no, not anyone can write software. You have to know software principles to do anything real. And you could just go on the forums where people are like, I took a Bubble course, you know, and I am stuck. I mean, it happens, and I think you have to be realistic about what you can do with it. But again, with seasoned people, you can do a lot, and that's been our experience. So,
How many does your typical MVP? I guess it depends on. I mean, that's too broad a question. I'm just wondering what percentage of MVP products out there are fine with Bubble?
yeah.
I mean, is that
That's a good, and actually, we're going to demo one of the MVPs on Bubble. And I don't know if, I didn't mean to cut you off. I don't know if you had another follow-up on that, but.
no? I'm just curious. I mean, I assume the number of MVPs going forward that can rely on Bubble as their capabilities become greater, that number will increase. But I'm just wondering, like your typical Nashville healthcare MVP, how many of those can survive just on Bubble?
Yeah, I think it depends on the complexity of the project and what your long-term, let's say your 3-year roadmap looks like. Because there is a way to migrate off there. I didn't mention that, but if, let's say you can start on Bubble and then move from Bubble to a full stack platform, and there's actually migration paths that are known that you can do that. And you can do it in pieces. So you can start with a database, for example, and then go to a hybrid architecture and kind of be in this halfway state. And then you start moving piece by piece by piece. So that is definitely possible. Of course, that incurs costs. And even with Bubble, so since they're built on AWS, you're subject to the pricing structure of AWS, right? So you're
That was going to be my question. My next question was around how do you manage what is ultimately consumption-based pricing with these
yes.
your customers?
That's a good question, and I don't have a really good answer right now because there's a lot of movement in the industry. So Bubble, for example, just came out with a new pricing structure, and there was a big backlash, and they actually backed off because their customers were like, hey, they wanted to go, I think it was like 3 or 4x or something, because of Amazon, right? So now Bubble's in a position where like, how do we keep our customers happy and still live in this ecosystem? So I think that's more motivation for them to maybe go to Google Cloud or maybe build their own cloud. I don't know, but yeah, that's definitely a reality.
Does Bubble integrate into existing app development frameworks like React and other stuff?
So it does integrate with typically with your middle tier and database layers. So Bubble has its own UI, so it doesn't use React.
Okay, so it's an all-in approach. So if I've got an existing app developed on React, can I integrate it into React?
There's no React integration with Bubble. Yeah, because they handle all the front end. Some of the frameworks actually will allow you to export Bubble screens into React code. I think Flutterflow is one of those. So you build on Flutterflow, and then as you mature, you can export that, and you don't lose all that work. You can export that into React code. And some of these Bubble platforms allow you to import Figma files. So say you spend money, you get a nice, beautiful product design, you just import the Figma file, and then you get the screens done, right? So why do, right? And that's always, for me, like, so I'm paying a designer to draw these screens in Figma, and then I'll have to pay again to put them in React. So people are now coming to merging those. So then you can just take all that work and bring it in. It's not perfect, but even if it gets you 70% there, that's huge.
One other quick question.
Yeah.
I'm full of questions on this. As far as the mobile app side it goes, are most of these platforms support web-based,
Yes.
mobile-based, tablet, all different form factors?
Correct.
Things like that?
They're responsive, right? And some of them allow you to even go full native. So you can actually wrap them in full native and then put them on the App Store, put them in the Google Play Store. So yes, that's definitely a thing. Yep. I think that's it. Thank you, guys. All right.
Oh, yeah. No, I got it. Thanks. All right. Hi, everyone. Very, very good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today. And now that you've heard about the low-code, like the introduction to low-code and how it works, I just want to give you a quick introduction about how our process actually works. So I'm just going to go in depth about the process and then how we have actually implemented a couple of our projects. So with that said, this is our typical product development process. And here I can show you like the steps, the design impact workshop, followed by product design, low-code development, and low-code product support and backlog planning. So the design impact workshop is actually our proprietary discovery process to DePalma Studios. So in that phase, what actually happens is we typically gather all the requirements and the needs from the client. So we go in there and ask the stakeholders, what is that you exactly want to achieve? And then what are your project goals and what are your objectives? So we are all on the same page to avoid any kind of scope creep in the later phase. So design impact workshop is a blueprint of the project, and then it actually allows us to flush out all the user flows and then define the personas and also to get all the features. In turn, we actually create and put together a product backlog. So that backlog is actually our scope. And that's a very comprehensive list. And then going on to product design, some clients come to us and say, hey, the code that you have given for the product design is too high. We only have so-and-so budget. How could we reduce it? So all you need to know is, what is your MVP scope? What is your core functionality? And then we actually give you like a feature list in a menu type, so you can actually go in and select what you need and what you don't need, depending upon the skeletal version that you want to launch for the MVP or release one. We are going to help you in that entire process. So the product design is a custom product design where we are going to have our designers work on the product and then come up with wireframes, visuals. We are going to provide you like with variations of designs to choose from. And then we have this entire product design and then the visual, high fidelity visual designs. And then we turn that into a clickable prototype on Figma, a tool called Figma. And then what's so cool about Figma is Figma actually offers an inspect mode. An inspect mode is basically a very front-end developer friendly tool. It actually gives you the assets to download and also like single line of code to be utilized. So it makes the process really fast to onboard the dev team. Followed by, we have the low-code development. So low-code development is nothing new than the typical custom product development. We have the same treatment. So in low-code development, you actually have the phases where you have weekly demos because it's very rapid. So we still follow like the weekly sprint process instead of the 2-week sprint process. And then right after that, depending upon the complexity, we do provide the low-code production support and backlog planning. Many clients tend to actually plan for the next phase because it happens so fast with their MVP, they want to actually work on the release too. So that's typically our product development process. And I want to now go over the project approach and our experience with a couple of our projects. Here's one of our clients, Custom Cook. So we have a demo of this project, and then this was one of our latest custom low-code project experience. And then Custom Cook is actually a marketplace where you can connect the diner or like somebody who likes to get a recipe cooked for them to a chef or a restaurant nearby. So it's a marketplace application. So Rebecca is actually our client, and she's really passionate about this project. So she came to us and she said, I have an idea on a piece of paper. I want you to help me figure out like the workflows and then how this actually works and then turn this dream into a reality. So we did follow the design impact workshop, the discovery process, and then we did follow the product design. And we came up with a comprehensive design, and then we actually gave her a code for custom product development. She then said, listen, I don't have the capital to build this or implement this right away, so let me go raise funds and then get back. In the meantime, we actually had Roberto who joined our team, and we were also looking into low-code development options. And we pitched Rebecca the solution of low-code, and then she was immediately excited, and then she onboarded to kickstart this project with us. So that's how we actually implemented the custom code. This is actually a work in progress. So today we are going to give you a demo of what's already completed or like development ready.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is the mobile app as well as the website?
Correct.
low-code?
And also a tablet. It's responsive, all the viewports. I just wanted to pay attention to the slide. So this custom cook product development roadmap for a typical custom development roadmap, right? So it's about 16 weeks. That's about 8 sprints with a larger development team, like say number of front-end developers, number of back-end developers, and then QA, and then DevOps engineer, and so on and so forth. And as I said, here you go. Like we have demo at end of every sprint, but whereas in the low code, we actually have demo every week, which I'm going to show, like a comparison of the both roadmaps. So this is a roadmap that we had initially suggested, which was pretty high in number, like for the code to build actually. So Rebecca said, okay, let me do this. Let me go find some investors and then get back. And here is the low-code custom development roadmap, relatively way smaller and faster. So we do have like 8 weeks of development on this, and then we are in week 6 currently. And then week 9 is all about go live, preparing for your deployment, and also have like that support. Now, we also have like weekly demos. Now, what's interesting is the comparison between the 9 weeks versus the 16 weeks timeline, and also the low-code roadmap or the low-code development is with a smaller team. You don't need a larger team to implement this. So here's the difference. I just wanted to show you like in real time how the difference is for both the custom and then the low-code. So before I go to the demo, I actually want to give you the benefits of what our client has expressed to us. First is the cost. To Floyd's point, it was only about 20 to 25% of the cost compared to the actual traditional custom development code. And then the timeline. So the launch to the market was way quicker. And then third, she had this idea, and she wants to test this business model for a lower price and also a faster time to the market before somebody else steals her idea or somebody else has an idea very similar to her. So that was really impressive. And then she was, we are very excited to be launching this application in like a couple of weeks. Here's a short demo. It's a voiceover. It's a pre-recorded demo last evening.
Where you can find your own personal chef tip. Welcome to the Custom Cook platform, where you can find your own personal chef to cook your favorite recipes in the comfort of your own home or have it delivered to you. But starting in the diner experience, these diners have the ability to go in and submit order requests, and they would start doing that by going through recipes and selecting which recipes they would like to add to their cart. As a user, you can go through and scan through recipes, see the ingredients, instructions, nutritional facts, and required cooking utensils and equipment, and adjust the quantity and the number of servings you would like for this dish, and add them to your cart. Once in your cart, what you're going to do is prep an order by finding a chef. You can select options like your preparation location, kitchen tools and utensils, the grocery products, as well as your pickup time. You can add all the necessary utensils that you will need for the meal, and you can place that order, and that will go out to chefs on the platform. Now on the chef side of the experience, we see a number of orders that have been submitted, and one that is in progress, one that's waiting a response, and this proposal has been submitted to the end user, meaning the diner, and one that is new. The one that we just submitted we see here and has a quantity of 1. You can see the ingredients. And you can make changes to this to update the price per quantity. So if you want to cook this dish for $10 a serving, you can update that and even change some of the ingredients. If you don't want to use parsley, for example, you can remove that, save the changes, and submit this proposal or request to the client. Now back on the diner side of the platform, under their orders tab, you can see the orders listed here and then go in and view the proposals that have been received on the order. I can again counter this proposal, or I can accept and make a payment. Here on this page, I can fill in things like my address and also the groceries, and then my payment information is actually saved in my account when I create the account here under payment preferences. All I now have to do is place this order, my card was charged, and now this order is in processing. That's it for the Custom Cook platform. It makes ordering private meals and chef experiences very easy and simple. Thank you. Welcome to the Custom Cook platform.
Thank you. Thank you for watching the demo. So now moving on to another experience that we had with our first ever low-code project. So that project is called RV Overnights. Basically, RV Overnights is nothing but an Airbnb for RVs. So RV Overnight is a very smart application. What it does is basically it connects the host and somebody who has an RV on this platform. All you have to do is if you have a space that RV can be parked overnight. All you have to do is just come in and then sign in as a host, and then you can actually earn anywhere between $40 to $100 per stay with an RV. So this application is very cool, and then this customer was actually in a rush to launch this, right? Because summer was coming, and then they wanted to launch this product right in time. And so we didn't go through our typical process. We didn't have design process, we didn't have a discovery process, and we just directly jumped in, and then to Roberto's point earlier, like we built this based on the templates. We also had our designers come in and tweak the templates and also make the app look nicer, and then also include all the aspects and elements that the client requested. But overall, in a nutshell, I want to say if you want to have if you want to ensure the success of a project, you still should follow the steps and the processes that you have for custom software development and not treat low code any different. And yeah, that's all I had for today. If you all have any questions, please do let me know. Yes?
Might be a technical question. On the last project that you had there, you had payment processing, for
Right.
example. Is that a feature of the platform from a compliance management standpoint and everything, and you're plugging it in, or is that something that you or the customer has to manage?
I can answer that.
Yeah.
So that specific one is using Stripe,
Okay.
right? So we're using industry standard payment processing systems, PayPal, whatever. None of the information, credit card data is stored in Bubble at all. So it's like any other application in that sense.
And the basket functionality?
That you can do different e-commerce platforms. And so Bubble has a very rich ecosystem of plugins. So anything you can really think of, they have a plugin. And if they don't, you can build one, right?
Right, yeah. You can still build a custom plugin, which is going to take you a little extra time. Otherwise, you can also utilize what's out of the box from the Bubble.
So Custom Cook uses Stripe for payment processing and RVO as well. And then it's using something like, I think it's TaxJar for like tax remittance. So there's several different plugins. It's using Google Analytics. It's using Google Maps. So the RVO lets you kind of see where all your locations are at. So there's a Google Maps integration as well. So there's several different integrations going on there.
This application is actually out implemented in the market, so you can actually go to the website that I've just quoted there, rvnovernights.com, and then you can actually see all the functionality.
Maybe one more last question.
Yes.
And then I'll be quiet. On the compliance side, I know healthcare was mentioned over here, the same concern. Do these platforms allow you to do HIPAA-based workflows and things like that? Will they sign BAs with us and stuff like that?
Yeah, so Bubble doesn't provide HIPAA compliance out of the box. So some of the platforms like Webflow are HIPAA compliant in the sense that whatever is in scope for their infrastructure, they can give you a BA for that, and they covers that. But anything beyond that, that's not a scope. But some of them do, some of them don't.
I'm assuming that might be one of the examples of where, even though I don't know if it's there yet or not, but on the Microsoft side, a lot of their stuff seems to be aligning in that direction. Do you happen to know if that's true?
I don't know if the Microsoft one is, but there's actually platforms. There's one called MedStack. That's a HIPAA specific. It's not really low code in the traditional sense, but it's basically a HIPAA environment in a box that they actually take care of, like if you have an audit, their team will step in and help you with that. So there's a lot of movement in that space with HIPAA and other security constraints. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, you said you had to rush this one for summer. 9 weeks is your typical low-code development time. Did you say how long this one took?
This was about 7 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, this
2
was
weeks.
much simpler than the custom book. Custom book had a little bit complexity in it because we had 2 different workflows, but this was pretty straightforward. Yeah, it all depends on your skeletal model that you want to launch, and then if you have very specific requirements, and we can actually tailor. Every project is different, and then we actually tailor the roadmap to every project need. So typically anywhere between 5 weeks to 10 weeks on an average.
expectations don't always line up with
Yes.
that. How are you guys managing that? And what have you seen?
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm finding is, our sales guy, Cheney, he picks up a lot of the requests coming through the Bubble platform that are looking for vendors. And, you know, most of the people out there that are providing Bubble services, they're, you know, they're not mature companies with a background like we have. So they're coming in at a lot lower price to do the work than we are. Even though we consider the pricing to be, you know, a lot cheaper than custom, but there's a cost to properly define the product with the proper discovery and to do a proper product design. And if you don't do those things, you just think you can do those on the fly while you're doing the development, you're going to run in with all the same problems you would have with any software development project. It's no different. And so what I'm finding is you can find people out there to do it a lot cheaper. I just couldn't imagine a serious business working with those kinds of people. So we're trying to offer this technology with a mature offering around it.
Yeah, and then I would say the expectations from the community at large seems to be like, oh, it's Bubble, so I can just get an app for like $5,000, right? And again, the promotional material from these platforms is kind of nudging people in that direction. And I think a lot of people are finding out the hard way that it's not really like that. I mean, yes, it gives you some gains, but going back to Floyd's point, you need a mature company that understands software to utilize it and get those, you know, 50%, 60% gains.
Have you had any situations where a customer said, I want it to do this, and you say, well, Bubble can't do this, or this is more in the custom line?
Yes. Even with maps, like, so the Bubble plugin will give you some functionality, but not the full functionality of like getting into all the dials and knobs that you can get with maps. So that is an example where, you know, it works one way, and if any deviation from the standard flow is going to require custom development work.
So for your shop, are you taking traditional full stack developers and converting them or having them do low code, or are you finding low code
Yeah.
devs out of the gate? Like, I don't know if
Correct.
Nashville Software School
Yeah.
is starting to teach low code as one of their disciplines, as an example.
So our current low-code team, they all have a full-stack background. So they're coming from a full-stack background. But there are some low-code guys that started just on low-code directly that are being used, and we consider those more junior type of.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry.
So, any other questions? You guys, what do you think of low code? Sound interesting? I think it's interesting.
Anyone can cook, guys.
Question for Roberto.
Not everyone.
Yeah.
So, Bubble Flutterflow, what have you looked at, say, how many graphical elements you can actually render
Yeah.
in a practical setting?
Yeah, that's a good, Ryan.
What if I need to have, on screen it's going to render, let's say, 5,000 elements, GUI elements, and then off screen, say in a strobe area, there's, let's say, 25 million. Can it handle that?
Yeah, that's I don't know. That's a very good question. And most of the apps that you see are definitely not that complex, right? So I'm sure even with React, you can run into performance problems depending on how you lay out your components. You have nests within nests within nests. I mean, you're going to get into trouble, right? So
the answer that you have is probably not, right?
I'm sorry?
The answer you have is neither of the.
The answer is I would be shocked if there were not performance problems with something like that, is what I would say. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I appreciate you giving the two examples because that really helps to see the apps. I got the impression that these were small companies, single
Yes.
IP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're startups.
They're startups.
Yeah.
Okay, so I get it. Get to market quickly, get there inexpensively. They probably didn't have a lot of capital
Yeah.
whatever you wanted.
Well, we have, one of our clients is in healthcare, a big client, and we proposed actually a hybrid solution. But they turned it down because I guess they just weren't ready to go that route. But I think at an enterprise level, I think a hybrid would be a smarter choice. But if you have, like, a lot of companies have internal tools, just an internal tool that you have for your people. I mean, that is a perfect candidate, I think, for local. I think, and actually that's the target that Microsoft had initially when they were doing the light rails. I can't remember the name of the platform, but they were target. What would they call them? Line of business apps, LOBs, or like internal apps. That's kind of their market that they were targeting. So I think low code makes sense there. But for a public-facing enterprise type of application, I would probably recommend a hybrid architecture in that case. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And you would say the hybrid solution because you can get to market more quickly with a low-code environment at the kind of the user interface.
Yes, exactly.
What I stand for.
Correct. You're going to get that speed savings and even the cost savings at that tier. So even though you don't get the full benefit of a low code, you can still have gains using a hybrid model because you're taking advantage of what low code offers.
How does this break down, like processing at the, on the client side versus processing at the server side? Is it doing all the business logic, on the AWS platform?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, everything's happening in AWS. Yeah, so I don't know exactly, I don't know if there's a one-to-one mapping in terms of what AWS specific resource is. For example, is it using Lambdas? I don't think Bubble publishes that information, but under the hood, it's definitely utilizing the AWS environment and infrastructure. It could be Lambdas. I don't know what exactly they're using, but I know, they have something called Amplify. I don't know if you've heard of Amplify from AWS. So so Amazon itself is putting forth these. Those are what we consider more RAD tools, rapid application development, as opposed to low code. But yeah, there's offerings there for that.
And also, this is pretty new right now, but we don't know what's coming up in the next 6 months. So
Yeah, we dove in. We
So
just
we
dove in
dove
here
in
first.
and it's evolving.
Startups that are about to close. It's startups for us right now. We'd love to. In fact, the last tech expo, I talked with one of the panelists that was director of enterprise IT, and I told him what we were doing. He said, "That's really interesting. I'm concerned about scale and security, but I'm interested and would love to have coffee and talk more and learn more about this." So I think and he said to me, "I think you're 12 to 18 months ahead of the enterprise really thinking about this kind of stuff." But that's why we're out here. We just want people to know that we're moving forward with this. We're building products. We want to educate folks on that. If anyone's looking or interested in knowing more about this, reach out to us. We love talking about it. Roberto's been immersed in it. I mean, we got a quick ramp because we immediately built out a team with engineers that have been doing this since 2019. So boom, we just all of a sudden had a really seasoned low-code team that we've built. So
Yeah, but they're full stack developers.
yes,
You could learn low code in their spare time.
absolutely.
And now they do it full time. So now
That-
they just basically do low code. That's all they do.
I'd be curious, this is kind of reading the tea leaves in the future, but do you see the driver for low code being more in the enterprise, the CMO as opposed to the CIO? Because, hey, we can build applications more quickly, we got a ton of budget that we can technically spend on technology and the marketing side, but we don't have full stack developers in the marketing team, but oh boy, we can go hire some low code guys because they'll fly under the radar and they can start coding up whatever components and websites and spinning this stuff up on AWS out from underneath kind of the purview of IT and the CIO.
The metric process should probably interlace between both the departments. But to your point, yes, the marketing department could be very interested in this emerging tech.
I mean, do you see CIOs saying, hey, give me this, I gotta have this stuff?
Yeah.
Gartner's saying, Forrester's saying it's coming, and it's, you know, the capabilities. I mean, you're not having this. The team size is so small. You don't have this enormous DevOps stuff going on, and it's just you still need to set it up properly.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about the ongoing cost of infrastructure. For example, if you go with a full stack development, now you have to have DevOps people that know what they're doing to manage the environment. So with low code, they take care of all that. So Bubble handles all that, patching, security, monitoring, penetration testing, all that they do. So again, for an entrepreneur, an MVP, they don't have to worry about like hiring now. I got to hire a guy to run my AWS environment or my Azure environment, right? So, and going back to your point about IT, within an enterprise organization, you could free up IT cycles. You know, sometimes with the IT department is having to do the round robin thing. Like everyone wants a piece of the IT team.
Yeah, and I remember one of the challenges when I was in corporate was the business never knew when they were going to get more IT cycles, so they'd ask for everything they could possibly think of, and we'd build a Frankenstein, and it just happened over and over again. So if you can enable the business units to be able to build some tools internally fast and effectively, I mean, I don't see any reason.
I think see the value. I think my caution to the CMO would be work with the CIO to stand these things up, because I mean, I'm a retired CIO, and I had this happen to me where marketing would, for some business unit, would spin up some application, and then they'd bring it to me and say, hey, can you support this now?
Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? We have enough swag in here for everybody to have something. So I have really nice shirts and cool logos and hats, and if there's a few hats, but I have shirts for everybody in here. So grab one on your way out, pick something you like. Grab a card if you want to talk to Cheney, or if you've put your name on a list, he might call you. I don't know. It's very possible. So, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.